My friends, it is easy to believe that happiness is something we must seek in faraway places, in the arms of others, in material things, in the praise of the world. But I stand before you today to say this: happiness begins with you. It is not handed to you by circumstance or given as a reward. It is a decision, a daily act of courage, a quiet revolution that begins within your own heart. The world may twist and turn around you, but it cannot define the peace that lives inside you unless you allow it to. Each of us carries the power to shape our response to life. We cannot always change the events that befall us, but we can choose how we meet them. Even in our darkest hour, we are not helpless. We are not without strength. We can still choose to love. We can still choose to forgive. We can still choose to believe in the good. Happiness is not a life free of struggle. It is a life filled with purpose. When we work to lift others, when we extend kindness without expecting reward, when we stand up for justice even when our voices tremble, these are the moments when true joy is born. I have known suffering. I have lived through days when the sun did not shine, but I have also known that the human spirit, when fueled by hope, cannot be broken. We must remind ourselves every day that we are not victims of fate. We are architects of a better world, starting with our own minds, so do not wait for happiness to arrive. Do not look for it in what others do or say. Turn inward, water the garden of your own spirit. Tend it with compassion, with discipline, with humility, and when you find that spark of peace, carry it out into the world, share it, spread it, for when happiness begins with you, it never ends with you. It becomes a light for others to follow. Happiness is not something that is found in wealth, status, or recognition. It is not something that can be bought, given, or inherited. At its core, happiness is a personal decision, a choice that each of us must make every single day, regardless of our circumstances. We often believe that we will be happy once everything in our life is in place, when we have the perfect job, the perfect partner, the perfect home. But the truth is that happiness does not wait for the world to arrange itself around our desires. It begins the moment we decide to embrace life as it is, with gratitude and courage. There is a quiet power in understanding that we are the authors of our own emotional reality. Life brings joy, pain, success, and hardship to all of us. No one escapes challenges, but while we may not have control over everything that happens to us, we always have control over how we choose to experience it. When we accept this truth, we take back a great deal of power. We stop waiting for happiness to arrive from the outside, and instead cultivate it within ourselves. This choice is not always easy. It requires a shift in mindset. It asks us to let go of blame, to stop pointing fingers at the world, at others, at our past. It demands that we look inward and ask ourselves, what am I doing right now to create my own peace? What thoughts am I allowing to grow in my mind? Am I feeding bitterness or am I nurturing hope? These questions are uncomfortable, but they are necessary. For until we take responsibility for our own emotional life, we remain trapped, chained to the idea that our well-being depends on things beyond our reach. Choosing happiness does not mean ignoring pain or pretending everything is fine when it's not. It means recognizing the pain and choosing to move forward anyway. It means deciding that, even in the middle of hardship, we are still worthy of joy. It is a rebellion against despair and a declaration that life is still beautiful, even when it's hard. This choice, when made consistently, transforms not just our own life, but the lives of those around us. When we take responsibility for our happiness, we stop placing that burden on others. We free them to be who they are, and we free ourselves to love without expectation. We become a source of calm and strength in a chaotic world. Happiness is not a destination. It is not something we will find someday, somewhere. It begins the moment we decide to live with intention, to choose joy over resentment, and to lead ourselves with kindness. That choice, quiet and personal as it may seem, is one of the most powerful acts of self-liberation there is. Inner strength and resilience are two of the most powerful tools we possess as human beings. They are not qualities that we are simply born with or without. They are cultivated, built over time through experience, reflection, and the choices we make. The ability to choose how we respond to life's challenges, rather than being ruled by them, is what separates those who merely survive from those who grow. Every person faces difficulty. No one's life is untouched by hardship, pain, or disappointment. But what makes the greatest difference is not the nature of the hardship, but the mindset with which we face it. Resilience is not about never feeling broken, sad, or afraid. It is about allowing yourself to feel and then rising again with purpose. It is about recognizing that while the world may try to shake you, it cannot define you unless you let it. That strength comes from within. It is the quiet voice that says, "I will try again tomorrow." It is the steady determination to keep moving forward even when the road is unclear or steep. Inner strength allows us to stay grounded in our values. It reminds us of who we are, even when the world seems to forget. It is this strength that gives us the courage to stand by what is right, to speak truth, to extend compassion in moments of tension. It does not make us invincible, but it does make us unshakable in the ways that matter most. When we are rooted in our inner strength, we are no longer at the mercy of every changing tide of life. We become the calm in the storm, not because there is no storm, but because we have found peace within ourselves. This ability to choose our response is especially important when it comes to happiness. Life will not always deliver joy. At times it will deliver hardship, heartbreak, or loss. But we still hold the power to respond with grace. We still get to decide that even in pain, we will not close our hearts. We can choose to learn, to grow, and to allow suffering to make us more compassionate rather than bitter. That is resilience, not a hard shell, but a flexible strength. Not avoidance, but the courage to engage with life fully, knowing we have the inner tools to handle whatever comes. When we realize that our peace is not dependent on the absence of struggle, we begin to live with greater freedom. We stop fearing difficulty because we trust in our ability to endure it. And in that trust, we find a kind of happiness that is deeply rooted, not fleeting or shallow, but enduring. It is a happiness that doesn't require everything to be perfect. It only requires us to show up with honesty, hope, and strength, no matter what life brings. True happiness is not found in a life that is free from problems or pain. Rather, it is found in a life that has purpose, a life where we wake up each day knowing that what we do, how we live, and who we are matters. Many people chase happiness as if it is a feeling that can be permanently captured by eliminating discomfort or avoiding all struggles. But real joy does not come from the absence of challenge. It comes from knowing that our lives have meaning, that we are contributing something, even in small ways, to the world around us. When we live with purpose, our hardships take on a different shape. They are no longer meaningless obstacles. They become part of a greater journey. Pain, setbacks, and even failure are easier to bear when we understand why we are enduring them, when we can connect them to something larger than ourselves. Whether that purpose comes from serving others, creating something valuable, raising a family, fighting for justice, or simply becoming the best version of ourselves, it gives us direction. It gives us strength. And in that direction and strength, we find peace. We find fulfillment. A meaningful life is not necessarily a glamorous one. Often, it involves quiet persistence, unnoticed acts of kindness, or unseen sacrifices. But even when the world does not applaud us, we can still feel a deep and powerful happiness in knowing that we are walking in alignment with our values, that we are not drifting aimlessly, but building something real. Purpose gives us the ability to endure discomfort because we understand it as part of a larger mission. The discomfort becomes worthwhile, Moreover, a purpose-driven life invites us to think beyond ourselves. It moves us out of the trap of selfishness and into a space of contribution. We begin to ask not just what will make me happy today, but what kind of difference can I make? That shift in thinking expands our hearts and deepens our happiness. Because when we bring light into someone else's life, we inevitably bring more light into our own. That is the irony of purpose. It may call us to give more of ourselves, but in doing so, it fills us with something far more lasting than temporary pleasure. Purpose also provides clarity in moments of confusion. When we know what we are living for, decisions become easier, priorities become clearer, and even when things go wrong, we do not feel lost because we have a compass guiding us. That compass, that sense of meaning, is one of the most reliable sources of joy that a person can have. It is not fragile, and it does not vanish when circumstances change. It stays with us, quietly pushing us forward. In the end, a life with purpose is not a perfect life, but it is a full one. And within that fullness, true happiness is found, not in fleeting pleasures, but in the steady soul, deep contentment that comes from knowing we are living for something greater. Acts of kindness, justice, and compassion are not only noble gestures, they are also some of the most powerful and lasting sources of true happiness. In a world that often encourages competition, individualism, and self-preservation, we sometimes forget the deep joy that comes from reaching beyond ourselves. But when we choose to act with empathy and integrity, when we stand up for what is right and extend a helping hand to someone in need, we connect to something greater than ourselves. That connection creates a happiness that is not shallow or temporary. It is meaningful, enduring, and transformative. Kindness is more than a polite gesture. It is an expression of our shared humanity. When we take the time to show care for another person, even in small ways, we affirm that we are all part of the same human family. Whether it is offering a word of encouragement, showing patience in a moment of frustration, or simply listening without judgment, these acts build bridges between people, and in building those bridges, we find a sense of purpose and belonging. The beautiful thing about kindness is that it doesn't just benefit the receiver, it uplifts the giver as well. The warmth we generate in others comes back to us, often when we need it most. Justice, too, plays a vital role in lasting happiness. When we fight for fairness, when we stand up for those whose voices have been silenced, we are not only defending others, but also honoring the part of ourselves that refuses to accept a world built on inequality or cruelty. This moral courage gives our lives meaning. It pushes us to become more than bystanders. It reminds us that we are agents of change, and that we can help shape a better, more compassionate world. That knowledge that we are doing our part to bring justice into our communities can bring a deep sense of fulfillment and peace even in the face of adversity. Compassion, finally, is the thread that weaves kindness and justice together. It asks us to feel the pain of others as if it were our own. It breaks down the barriers that divide us and replaces judgment with understanding. Compassion does not mean agreeing with everyone or accepting every action. It means refusing to dehumanize anyone. When we approach life with compassion, we begin to see the world not as a battleground, but as a shared home. This mindset allows us to live with greater empathy, patience, and wisdom. These acts, kindness, justice, and compassion, may seem simple, even ordinary, but they are the foundation of a joyful life. Not the kind of joy that comes and goes with circumstances, but the kind that grows steadily inside of us, the kind that endures. In giving of ourselves, we discover a deeper version of ourselves. And in doing so, we tap into a happiness that is both profound and lasting. one that comes from living with open hands, an open mind, and an open heart. Self-awareness and inner peace are essential foundations for true happiness. Without them, we are often at the mercy of the world around us, weighed by every criticism, shaken by every setback, and constantly searching for something external to fill the void within. But when we take the time to know ourselves deeply, to understand our thoughts, our emotions, and our motivations, we begin to uncover a quiet strength. We begin to live from a place of intention rather than reaction. That is where inner peace begins, and with it, the kind of happiness that is steady and resilient. Self-awareness is the practice of looking inward with honesty and curiosity. It's not about judging ourselves harshly or trying to become someone we're not. It's about paying attention to who we are, our patterns, our strengths, our fears, and our hopes. When we know ourselves, we stop being strangers to our own hearts. We start making choices that are aligned with our values instead of following what others expect of us. We begin to notice what truly brings us joy, what drains us, what inspires us, and what holds us back. This clarity is powerful. It gives us the ability to set boundaries, to say no when something doesn't serve our well-being, and to say yes to the things that truly matter. It helps us navigate relationships with more empathy and honesty because we understand what we need and what we can offer, and most importantly, it grounds us. No longer are we tossed about by every passing opinion or temporary emotion. We become centered, anchored in who we are. From this self-awareness grows inner peace, a calmness that doesn't depend on life being perfect. Inner peace is not the absence of noise or conflict in the world around us. It's the presence of calm within ourselves despite those things. It allows us to move through the world with a sense of quiet confidence, knowing that we can handle what comes our way. It allows us to pause before we react, to choose grace over anger, and understanding over judgment. This peace doesn't mean we ignore problems or pretend everything is okay when it's not. It means we meet our challenges with a balanced mind and a steady heart. We give ourselves space to feel, to reflect, and to grow. And in that space, happiness begins to bloom, not because everything is going right, but because we are at peace with ourselves. When we cultivate self-awareness and inner peace, we stop looking outside for validation. We stop believing that we'll only be happy when things change or improve. We realize that the most reliable source of joy is already within us, waiting to be discovered, nurtured, and trusted. And once we tap into that source, we become far less dependent on the ups and downs of life. We are no longer chasing happiness. It flows from within, naturally and steadily. When we understand that personal happiness is not just about ourselves, but something we can share with others, our lives begin to take on a deeper, more beautiful meaning. Happiness that begins within us does not stay contained. It radiates outward. Like a single candle lighting another, our joy has the power to ignite joy in others. When we live with inner peace, purpose, and compassion, we become a quiet source of light in a world that often feels chaotic and uncertain. This is the quiet miracle of genuine happiness. It's contagious. When you smile with authenticity, others feel it. When you act with kindness, others are inspired by it. When you stand calmly in the middle of a storm, others learn that it is possible to be still. People may not remember everything you say or do, but they will remember how you made them feel. And if you live in a way that reflects your inner peace and purpose, you leave behind a trace of hope wherever you go. Even small actions, offering encouragement, listening with empathy, standing up for what is right, can cause ripples that reach farther than you will ever know. And the joy you create in others often finds its way back to you in ways that are unexpected and beautiful. This is the sacred cycle of giving and receiving, of being light and being lifted by the light of others. Your happiness, when rooted in authenticity, becomes a gift to the world. In this way, we begin to see that happiness is not a selfish pursuit. It is a responsibility, not the kind of responsibility that burdens us, but the kind that liberates us. Because when we live with joy and purpose, when we choose to respond to life with strength, grace, and compassion, we give others permission to do the same. We become examples of what is possible. We become reminders that life, even with its pain, is still worth loving. And so, as we reflect on this journey, let us remember that happiness begins with you, not in the future, not in someone else, not in some perfect version of life, but in the here and now, in your own heart. Let it begin with the choices you make today, in the thoughts you hold, in the way you treat yourself and others. Let it be the seed you plant, the light you carry, the path you walk, and once you find that happiness, real, grounded, resilient, don't keep it for yourself. Let it shine, let it lead, let it remind the world that no matter what, peace is possible, joy is possible, and that possibility begins with you. Thank you.